So the fence project is finally done.
It's like it's snowing, but it's not cold, and I don't have to shovel it. It's fantastic.
And since the fence project is done, there's a few things that we should talk about, things that I would have done differently had I known them from the beginning, things that I learned along the way. So we'll go around and talk about a few different things, but the first one that I want to bring up is this guy. So this, and I had a whole video previously on using this thing to roll out wire, and it works great for rolling out wire with one problem, and that is, as the wire goes out, it tends to get taut. It either catches here or something catches on the sides of the reel or something like that. And it'll get taut. And then that tension will eventually give way. And when it does, this thing will want to spin like crazy. And when that happens, of course, it means that it spins, the wire flies out, and it ends up getting caught, in the sides or around some other part of it, and it becomes a giant mess. I actually had one section of fence, one particular piece of wire I was rolling out, I guess it was just my unlucky day that day, that literally this thing bound up something to the tune of 15 times over a 500-foot section of wire, which is just awful because you binds up, you have to get out of the tractor, come back here, unbind it, get back in, start going again. It takes forever. It's a giant pain in the rear. So I'd been looking for a while about a way to somehow stop this, and it seems that the problem really is that this thing turns too freely, so that when that tension releases, it just spins like crazy. So I originally thought of doing all kinds of silly things like putting washers on the sides and trying to shove a spring in the middle of it or something like that, something to put tension and friction on it so that it wouldn't spin so easily. And then, luckily, before I did any of those crazy things, I landed on this, which is take the 3-point of the tractor and unscrew this link arm so that you get an angle on the 3-point, which then of course angles the hitch adapter, which then angles this. The act of angling this was able to do enough to make it work rather flawlessly after that. And the difference is that when you do this, as you can see, me spinning it, it doesn't just keep rolling. It rolls a little bit, but not a lot. And what you have is these pieces of the reel on the end, they'll catch and they'll hit against the side. You get a lot more friction because it's always pushed to one side. And as a result, it doesn't just spin freely like crazy whenever that tension gives way. With this in place, I believe I did something to the tune of 4,000 feet of fence, and I think I only had to undo a jam back here twice running it like this. So definitely if you end up using one of these wire unrollers, pitch it over. Just, pitch it over, angle it over as much as you can on the 3-point, and that act of angling over makes it so that it doesn't bind up on you nearly as much. Moving on to the next thing. So this post driver, absolutely wonderful piece of equipment. I love it. There's no possible way I could have put the fence in largely by myself without it. It wouldn't have worked. My arms would have fallen off without something like this to put posts in the ground for me. The biggest thing I would say that I learned with this one, of course, is the bottom. So when I bought this post driver, I read what I believed to be the manual ahead of time. I was wrong, because the manual I read was actually for a slightly different model that has a slightly different bottom. This particular model driver, the bottom of it is actually meant to be put right on the ground. So literally just on the back of the tractor, on the 3-point, drop it right down and rest it on the ground. And with doing that, it works great. Keeps itself in position, doesn't flop around all kinds of crazy. You'll actually see in some of my previous videos where I'm using it that I had it up off the ground and I was trying to stabilize it with these. It really doesn't work very well at all. So the end result is these really are only to be used on this model for storage. So when it's here, these are here to keep it from falling over so that it stays upright so you can hook up to it again someday. But the bottom of it is supposed to go right to the ground. And once that's right to the ground, it's great because it means that the ram, when you're using it, isn't going to go past the end and isn't going to ever hit the stops at the end or anything like that. So much better, stick that thing right on the ground. The other thing with this one, of course, you'll see in one of my previous videos, these little T-post adapters don't last. And I ended up making my own that worked much better. I actually have some modifications I want to make to the one that I made to make it even stronger. And at some point in the future, I'll do another video about making one of those, because I have a feeling I'm going to be using this thing again for somebody else's fence soon, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, great piece of equipment. Stick the bottom end on the ground. moving on. Barbed wire, so much of it that we did. The biggest thing that I did differently after the first few pieces of barbed wire I put up on this fence that works much better. When you come with the barbed wire to wrap around the post, initially I was just taking it around the post and then wrapping it around itself. The better way is to wrap it around the post, then go around the post one more time and then wrap it around itself. What that does is when this pulls, it effectively tightens itself around the post, keeps it from moving up and down or anything like that, just makes it a lot stronger. So definitely wrap it around the post again before you wrap it around the wire itself. The other thing I'll say for gate hardware, when you go to put the hinges in, be prepared to either put the hinge directly through whatever the post is. If you're using wooden posts, you don't care, you just drill a hole through the wood and put it through. If you're using metal, either be prepared to drill a hole through the post so that you can put the hinge pin, the hinge bolt through, or do something like this. I've got another video on making these little brackets that I did to make it easier. But the biggest thing is gate hardware that you buy that is only, one point of contact in the middle for that bolt. It's okay, but when you go to adjust it, it's not as easy. It doesn't hold itself as nicely when you go to adjust it. So if you can, try to get gate hardware that has 2 points of contact on that hinge bolt. So, about the bullet fence system. I have to say that after using it for all of the braces all the way around this fence, so 1.5 miles of fence and all the braces and everything for it, I'm really happy with it. It works great, and it's extremely nice to not have to drag a welder out into the field and stuff like that. I didn't even have a welder when I started this project, so that was another problem, but it's incredibly, in my opinion, much faster than just doing that. You can have a corner up in literally less than an hour, put the posts in, cut the cross braces, and have them in less than an hour, which is really pretty great. The only thing I will say is you got to keep in mind when you do this, joints like this, where you put in this H brace, stuff like this where you've got a corner that's a 90, these are pretty easy to do, because this, you can put this H brace in and you can push this post just enough to get this H brace, to get this piece of pipe over the little joint that it's got to go over here. That's fine on a 90, but it's not fine in other places. Braces like this one are quite a bit more difficult because, of course, you end up putting these two ends in first, and I want to put this H on top because having the brace above it will just add extra strength to it and keep it from this brace ever from moving up. But the problem, of course, with that is that when you do that, these ends are in place. For this to go in, these two posts need to spread by a grand total of about 3/8 of an inch up here, and that's it. But this is so strong, when you put those two ends in place, I have bent crowbars trying to move that with a crowbar. You just can't do it with a crowbar. So, in order to do this, bring the tractor with you. Hook the tractor with a, some kind of a chain or a tow rope or something to this post and pull on it. You'll be, if your tractor is big enough, you'll be able to pull it enough to get this in place. And when you get this in place, you'll have some room. Use the collar on the end to bring this into place, push the collar over it to hold it, then let off the pressure with the tractor, and it should go in nicely. The other thing you can try to do, which I did on at least a few of these, is you try to cut this to more of a saddle. So on the end of this piece of pipe, you cut an angle to try to get it in here, and then sort of wedge it and crowbar it and try to push it in. That works, but honestly, it's faster to just hook the tractor to one of these and pull a little bit. And in the end, by doing that, you have enough tension on it that it's holding, and hopefully it'll be there forever. I haven't had a single one fail yet, but of course the fence has only been done for, a few weeks. So we'll see what it's like in a year. But so far, they've been pretty great. And finally, one of the things that I've seen in so many fences at so many farms just driving around is gates that over time have sagged. Typically whatever end of the gate it is that opens, that end will sag. It causes the post that's holding the hinges to, tilt just a little bit, and you get that gate sag over time. And it's not that it's a huge problem. Obviously, people live with it just fine. But if I can avoid that, I'd like to. This is how I intend to try to avoid that. So this is a latch for the opening end of the gate here. And one of the things that's nice about a latch like this is that when you open it, you have this pin here that you mount on the gate. That goes into the latch and is actually supported. It actually, when it enters the latch, it goes up by about 1/2 inch as it goes in. So what that's doing is it's taking the tension off the other end of the post that's holding the hinges for the gate, so that over the years we shouldn't get significant gate sag, and also the gate can't go down when it's here. This end just can't go down because the latch is actually holding it up. So that's really, really nice. You know, you can still, if you're worried about this latch failing or something like that, you can still, you know, throw a chain around there or something, no big deal. What I like to do with these latches is a bunch of locks, simple padlocks. There's a little spot down here. Let's see if I can just get that in there. There's a little spot down here to put a padlock on there. Just put that on and you're all good. And the other thing I'll say is, if you're going to put a bunch of these in, buy a whole bunch of padlocks with the same key, because right now we've got about 12 gates on this fence all the way around, and I don't want to carry 12 keys. That's a terrible problem to have. I just don't want to do it. So one key for all of them. Just, you know, keep it nice and easy. I'm sure these padlocks won't last forever, and when they need to go, I'll replace them all together and again stick to one key. But really happy with these latches. They work really well. The other reason that I want to padlock them like that, if something did happen and these posts that hold the gate were to spread a little bit, it's possible theoretically that that pin could then come out and then this gate would flop free. But if you've got a padlock in there, it can't. Even if that was to try to come out, that padlock would end up holding between the brackets that it's in there, and then the gate still wouldn't be able to swing free or anything. So another reason to lock it. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for our post-mortem on the fence here. I know I've been saying this in other videos, but we really do have cows coming. It's not a lie. We really do actually have cows coming. And at the moment, about 3 of them are waiting to get pregnant. So as soon as 3 of them get pregnant, then they'll all be coming over here, and we'll do at least 1 or 2 videos of introducing to the cows. That's going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to it. We'll see you later.